Welcome, low ego action heroes, and thank you to our guest for his amazing dancing during that song. This is Q&A AMA live on 13 February 2024, the late edition. And we already have some questions queued up because some of you have already sent those in. But before we bring in our special guest, let's, of course, thank everybody who is supporting my Patreon. Thanks to all of the free Patreon members. We've got, over, I think, almost 200 Patreon members now, and about a third of you are paid. So thanks so much to all the paid people for supporting the content and the usual stuff. You can join our Patreon and get some secret perks for as little as $1 American a month. And so I would say please support me if that occurs to you as something to do. So that being said, we're going to bring in Dr. Nick, who's slightly transparent today due to him using a different camera. Dr. Nick, welcome.
Hello.
Hello, kids.
I don't know if you could hear me singing. I tried to do like one of those like epic voiceovers over the theme tune. It was like, people of UX around the world, come and join in. But yeah.
No, when you're off camera, I have you muted, and so I see you but don't hear you. But honestly, a lot of our guests dance to the theme song. Hey, Melanie. So Dr. Nick, before we jump into the first question, tell everybody where they can find you and follow you and support you.
LinkedIn.
Right.
And I'm that's you know this stuff, most of you. Although we are at the new the late show edition where it's 10 p.m. my time. Is it 11 p.m. your time?
Surely is. Yeah. So
wow, yeah.
Yeah, we're doing some new times for the shows because I've got an Arizona work day. And so I'm doing some shows at 3 p.m. my time before my Arizona workday starts, and then 11 p.m. my time after my Arizona workday is over. And I'm trying to mix them up a little bit so that we can catch people around the world in different time zones.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was going to say hello to more of West Coast of America and maybe the APAC region.
Yeah, for sure. I think. Let me see what my phone says. Let's see. My phone says it's 9 a.m. in Melbourne, Australia, so we can probably catch some of those peeps. Hi, Ana Lucia, for staying up late.
Hello, Antipodeans.
Yes, Ana Lucia staying up late with us. I think it's 10 p.m. in Portugal. Someone help me with my Portugal time zone I'm always confused. And Melanie, of course, in Texas. All right, we got a bunch of questions, and some of them are long, Dr. Nick, so I hope you've got your scrap paper, pen, cup of water. No. Okay. Please hold.
I'll wing it. Yeah, go on.
All
Keep
right,
going.
good
I'm listening.
Luck. We've got long questions and probably long answers as well. All right. I'm going to wait for him to come back. Yes, I don't expect anybody to be able to read that. I'm on a 50-inch television and I can't read that. So I will be reading the questions out loud. Don't worry. And if anybody wants to send in a question, check it out. deltacx.com/links is where you can send in your question. No charge, no club to join. Very nice. Pen, see-through pen. And if you are a paid Patreon, mid-level or higher, drop it into the Discord special channel and you will get priority service. Okay, so here comes the long question. It says, hi. How would you approach the task of mapping all the users of an internal tool? At the moment, I have some user information created by the previous UX designer that divides the users in 3 main overarching roles and lists their main tasks and needs. However, it is from a few years ago, and I don't know how much of the tasks and needs are still relevant. They're also written more or less in a generic way, and I'd like to update and deepen our understanding of the task flows that they do. Also, not everyone in a role does all the tasks of that role, and there are additional people who use the software, but they're not mapped because they're not the main users. So although they might use some features, they're usually not being considered while testing. More and more I notice that when I get a new feature, improvement, or need to address, we usually mention that it is for the users without really quantifying or qualifying who does this and when or why. I would like to
Yeah.
have a better view of our user base to be able to reach more easily the right users for usability testing or understand better their context and the size of an issue, but I'm a bit unsure what to do to make sure I get high quality and relevant information that will be really useful in the future when I work on a concept. Whoa! Where do we start?
Yeah, that took a
with
swerve
this?
at the end. I like that. It was cool.
Yes, where do we start with this
it didn't-
amazing question? What do we do
Yeah.
to make sure this person gets high quality and relevant
Okay.
information about users and tasks?
Can you leave the prompt up, please? Because thank
If
you
you can
very
read
much.
that.
Yeah, no, I can. It's great.
Okay, great.
Okay, let's cut to the chase. We'll go straight to the end. I'm a bit unsure as to what to do to make sure I get high quality and relevant information. God, I really am see-through. I'm sorry about that. I'm
That's
kind of
all right.
phasing into
We
different
appreciate your
realities.
transparency.
Basically volume, scale, sample size, repetition, cadence, whatever you want to call that. That's what is the simple and easy answer to. When I say validity, I'm breaking a few rules there, but what I'm saying is to confidence and to doing the right thing ultimately, in order to get the quality and relevant information that you want. Zooming back out again, I loved how you opened this up, and I think your instincts are spot on. I would double check everything. If it has been a couple of years, and this is an internal tool, versions, staff turnover, restructuring stuff. If it's a couple of years, you probably can't take it as read. That's for sure. So, absolutely, I think where you stop short is I would basically just treat it all as kind of hypotheses. It's really great background reading, but that's kind of ground zero, and you start from there rather than push on from there. Do you know what I'm saying? It's more to inform you, but you're going to revalidate, and I hate using that language, but recheck, retest, reinvestigate this stuff. Now, where your predecessor, in my humble opinion, could have done a better job. Notice how my language changed to be more positive and nice. Where your predecessor could have done is just focus more on the needs, in my humble opinion. If you want to classify users, for me, the only way to classify users, i.e. to segment them or persona them or whatever, is by a common need. That's an easy way to do it. That's low-hanging fruit stuff. And on an internal tool, usually the role dictates something up there. The role dictates the need, right? I'm responsible to do stuff, therefore I need to do a thing, and therefore I need to do a thing of the software. So yes, keep it simple. It's so easy to get buried in the weeds, to boil the ocean, to go to town. Stay on target, stay focused. If you're restarting this mapping of users, that sounds big and grandiose, and it can be if you let it get out of control. You need to understand who it is, what am I building, and what are their needs of what we're building or have built, right? That's the core questions. You get that, and to keep yourself safe, you just keep going. Every week, 5-10 users, whatever you can do. Keep doing it. If they're internal users, you have them on tap. That means you have no excuse not to stay really busy, right? Get around the business, get around all different departments, different levels of seniority. I don't know how your business is broken up: operations, production, manufacturing, engineering, all those sorts of things, right? You know your business. Understand how people are coming to this thing and what they're using it for, and then watch them doing it, because people talk crap. Thank you. Amen. Right. I had a beer this evening. I must apologize. I was, because it's the later show. I've just been out for dinner. We had a pre-Valentine's with my missus. We went for a Thai. It was lovely, but I had a beer, and so I'm a little bit more relaxed than I might be normally. So there we go.
That's fine. We'll turn it into karaoke. Wrong button. Hold on. I'm pressing all the wrong buttons, and I need to put the question back up. Okay. So what I would want to add to that is, when you get the chance to read Larry's book, Disruptive Research, and he talks about task analysis, ultimately what job title people have is not as important as the tasks that are being done. And you know that sometimes those tasks are being done by job role or title A or B or Q or whoever. And so you want to make sure that you understand the tasks and what people are doing. And and you might be broadening your understanding of who does those tasks. So I think that you could do an observational research where you want to get to know the people who do these tasks. You want to see how they do them now. That might be your internal tool. It might be gluing together your internal tool with some other tools. Oh, then I have to go to SharePoint. Then I have to open up a spreadsheet. Then I have to check a piece of paper I keep in my desk. So really try to utilize Larry's task analysis approach in order to get that larger picture. And then you can try to figure out which roles or titles or people match that task. So let me look back at the question. Better view of our user base and more easily find the right users for usability testing. Yeah, again, it's whether you do a larger study at once, which I normally do, so you might be meeting 20 people, 30 people, whatever's the right number, or as Nick said, you're doing it more kind of staggered or spread out, where you might meet 5 or 10 people this week and 5 or 10 people another week. Whatever it is, you've got to put all that data together and figure out what are people doing and how, where's it going well, where's there room for improvement. And let's take a look at some of the other, and I think we both agree that this needs updating. And let's see, what can you do to make sure you get high quality and relevant information useful in the future when you work on a concept? Again, I think this is all in Larry's book, which again, you can find on Amazon. You can find it on deltacx.media if you want a digital version. And basically, he goes into kind of all of this. How do you adjust some of your research techniques? How do you map out these tasks and the people who do them? And how do you kind of carry that over into strategy and design? And I think that answers the question you're asking. So rather than trying to recreate Larry's book here, I'm just going to recommend it. I think it's 40 something on Amazon and 15 for the digital version on my website. So, you know, it's medium priced. Nick.
I've just done something for a bank here in the UK, and it's exactly that, an internal tool, knowledge base stuff. This isn't, I mean, at least in banking, maybe in your sector or vertical, whatever, it's different, but this isn't rocket science stuff. What I'm trying to say is we're not finding a cure for a terminal disease, or we're not putting a person on the moon. Bollocks. Yeah. I went.
There you go. One beer later, everyone.
Yeah. This is why you should probably get me earlier in the day.
No, this is the fun part.
No. My point being is to the question asker. You will, by just speaking to a few people really quickly, you will find out the user needs and the pain points of that particular tool for that particular role. For example, at the bank, there's a difference between customer facing and not customer facing, or back office, front office, back office. And the performance of a tool affects the communication. If you're on the phone and somebody's saying, hey, what's my balance? And you can't find it because the system isn't doing it. There's all these other factors. But my point being is you'll find out these really big red flags really obviously, really quickly. The rest of it is all much more nuanced and much more behavioral. So all the low-hanging fruit, like search doesn't work and the usual shenanigans, easy money, and won't really help you segment the users. But once you get into role and task-based, it should make itself really clear, and it shouldn't be that difficult. It's just more of a scale problem rather than a complexity problem, if you know what I mean. You'll know what roles use what functions and why they're doing it, and what doesn't work for them and what they would like to have. Then you're in. You're winning.
Thank you, Dr. Nick. I will put up the next question, which is a little shorter. This one says, I feel that even when being able to do user research, there are so many trade-offs and decisions in a design that cannot really be tested. So one often ends up deciding on some things based on what seems like the best guess or more fitting UX principle or best practice. Or sometimes there are technical compromises to be made or decisions to be made on the fly because it feels you cannot stop the whole implementation and research the best answer to what is maybe a small detail. It feels a bit exhausting and sad that even if I'm talking with users for some things, I'm still making things up for others. Am I doing things wrong? How do I navigate this?
Nah, yeah, I don't think you do anything wrong. I think welcome to the world of research, or at least the messy world of today's research. I need to really kind of think about your question a bit more, because there's trying to work out what it's asking. I think what we're really saying is it's about the pragmatism of research, and especially if you're doing something more innovative or where you can't get a good signal from research for whatever reason, because of or technical feasibility means you've got to compromise and do things that are less optimal and just make it work for reasons beyond your control. Shit happens. I mean, that's not the answer you want to hear, but maybe it makes you feel better that I have the same stuff too, if that helps. Like, that's what I'm saying. I think it's a messy world we live in of bleeding edge innovation sometimes and legacy crap at the other end. And then users in between everything. And we've got to kind of make it all work. It gets really messy. Compromises are made, corners are cut, shit happens. No nice. I think you might have just become a senior. You might have just crossed that line. You know what I mean? You might have had that epiphany. You know what I'm saying? I think it's just more of a pragmatic view. That's, I think, my answer. So just hang in there. Really, it doesn't get better or worse. It's just, this is it.
And thank you for that. I wrote something down a little bit different, though I don't totally disagree. I wrote evidence-driven and informed. As much as possible, we want to be driven by evidence, data, and knowledge. Let's see, I made some new graphics today. Did I make an evidence, data, and knowledge graphic? Let's see.
You better have done. No. I think it's this one. No, that's empathy and knowledge. Okay, so let's see. So then it looks like this. So basically, we want to convert opinions, guesses, and assumptions into evidence, data, and knowledge as much as possible, and then utilize that in our design work. But we can't do that about everything. We just can't. You know, we can't research every single decision. We can't say, what if we made the button corner a little rounder? Oh no, let's research that first. You know, sometimes this is where you have to think about prioritization. What's our priorities? And sometimes things drop to the bottom of the priority list and we don't research them, but maybe we find out later if they're working well or not through usability testing. Not everything is going to be researched up front. You're lucky if where you work is doing any research up front. But this is where you can use your evaluative testing or usability testing to see, did that matter? Did that have any sort of negative impact? Hey, we moved this button a little bit. Hey, we reworded this thing. You know, some of these small changes where you're saying, I can't stop and research the best answer to everything. Yes, that's why we have best practices. That's why we have common paradigms. No one said you have to reinvent a drop menu. The drop menu is the drop menu. You're just going to use it. Is there something better? Maybe someday someone figures that out. So I would say definitely don't poop on yourself for this. You are not doing something wrong. You are lucky if you can do any research ahead of time at all in 2024. So I would say yes, designing based on good principles, best practices, whatever knowledge you might have of psychology or behavior, that's all going to help you. Being a low ego action hero, playing out possible outcomes. Okay, if a low tech savvy user came into this interface, what would they notice first? You know, you have to kind of play out scenarios and take yourself out of it and say, okay, if I don't know much about this and I'm seeing this for the first time, is this too much for my brain? Can I make sense of what's going on here? And you just have to go for it. And then later on, we'll try to test it. I mean, that's what we're doing at my job, even though my job is fantastically research informed and they really prize and value research. And in many cases, they wait for my research to make certain decisions. There's a lot of stuff the designer just has to go with, and then I'll be evaluative testing it later. So you're not doing anything wrong. Anything you're unsure about, try to get it into evaluative testing so you can see where it can be improved. Nick, you look like you have something to add. Yeah, I can't quite get my head around the first couple of lines. That whole kind of, there are so many trade-offs and decisions in a design that it cannot really be tested. That's the bit I've got me spinning.
No, I guess it could be tested.
Yeah,
maybe it can't be known up front, but it can be tested later on. Maybe they meant
Yeah,
research.
listen, I know I'm cool with trade-offs and all the other stuff. That makes pure sense. But ultimately, I think to the question asker, ultimately what we're really testing is it any good? Does it meet needs? Is it painful? Does it work in context? All of those sorts of things. In my humble opinion, again, Debbie's point about prioritization is bang on the money, especially if you're in a resource constrained department or team. If you're a team of one, you know what I mean? If you're in a team of 20, then it's a different story and you can all divide and conquer. But if it's just one or two of you, you know, and you've got multiple projects going on and you're context switching like a pro, you know, not easy. Yeah, you should. I think as long as you in your mind, I think that's your responsibility. Your primary role as a researcher is to kind of keep everybody safe. Do you know what I'm saying? So as long as you're reasonably happy, and you're going to have to, when I say reasonably, that's not an easy shout. You're going to compromise, but you can be happy enough. Like, can we release this? Is it going to cause the call center to light up? Do you know what I'm saying? Should we start dedicating £2 million of engineering time and money to doing this thing? You know, that's ultimately going to come down to you, or whatever the research question is. So, or, you know what I mean? I guess what I'm saying is the prioritization isn't just in what you can achieve, it's also in your mind as to what's important. Because everything's important, but it isn't. So you've got to choose some stuff.
Dig it. So this is Q&A AMA Live with me, Debbie, and Dr. Nick. We're totally live, and we're here to take your questions until we fall asleep. No, for another 40-ish minutes. Until the gong goes off. And you can ask your question at deltacx.com/links. You can ask it in the chat, but we might say your name out loud, so don't poop on your job in the chat. We're going to say your name. We got a few more questions ahead of time, so I'm going to bring up the next one in giant font because we got some short questions. What do you particularly enjoy about your work? Sorry if it's already been asked. I don't think we've been asked that in all these years.
No. Yeah, we haven't been asked that. That's a good one. Thank you for asking it. It's changed. I'm going to give you the positive answer, not the negative answer. I love people, and I don't, because I'm a really antisocial person, if you're anybody that knows me, but like psychology, I love people in that regard. I find people really interesting as things to prod and poke and study and observe. They're just fascinating, weird, beautiful creatures of of logic and passion and weirdness, you know. So I love that. The other thing is I know everybody says this is I guess cheesy or sappy. I genuinely believe we're making the world a better place. Genuinely. Especially when you do some crazy, like you're doing some accessibility work. You know you're actively making somebody's life practically better. Right? When you're doing interviews or user testing with somebody in a wheelchair or with some kind of assistive technology, you're making lives directly better. That's not just I'm helping brand X make X amount of money or sell more shit or convert more or the usual shenanigans that we do. That's good stuff. Now, it's not saying you have to be a saint. Only those people who do accessibility work are saints and good people. Anytime you're doing anything on your mobile phone or with your fridge or your toaster or whatever it is, right? Any interaction you're having, by having it less frustrating, having your needs met, having the pain take away, is another form of making everybody's lives better, less painful. More time to do the things that are important and less time in the interaction, if you know what I mean. So that's what I enjoy about our work, and that's why I fight like tooth and nail to stop it becoming about fucking drawing shit. Sorry, about visual design. I'm more fun after a bit. I'm really sorry about the language. That was bad.
Totally fine.
Really
sorry. This is
sorry.
rated adults, so that's fine. I've got my YouTube marked as not for children, so that's totally fine.
Sorry,
we want to be honest here. No, we want you for your honesty. That's why we keep having you back. I certainly agree with Nick. I think the main thing I would add is the kind of joking but true thing is that when I was little, everyone thought I would either be a psychologist or a lawyer, and I like to joke that I've ended up both. And so I think that in addition to everything that Nick said about, you know, connecting with people and making things better for people and understanding people and things like that, I get to play psychologist and lawyer. Ana Lucia says, I can totally relate with that. I'm not that social, but humans are so interesting. how they think, why they behave this way, how they manage to fight and get through difficult times. And these are difficult times. Let's see, we got a couple of other short questions. Let's put the next one up. What is one thing you would tell your younger self to start doing or know about?
It has to be, in today's money, AI, even though it's really not good. Okay. But one way or another, the thing, it probably isn't going away. So I think that's probably like a nailed on thing. However, for me personally, learn how to play the game a bit better, a lot better, or just play the game at all. I think in today's world, politics, optics, persuasion, influence, all of these things are probably more important than technical skills, business acumen, honesty. You know what I mean? I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff that there's a lot of very superficial stuff that is worth a lot of money these days. I'm very glad that I'm coming to the ends of my career, but if I was telling that's what I will tell my children. If I was telling younger me, I'd give them this sort of advice. I don't like the way the direction that the corporate world is going. I don't like the way any of this is going. That's the truth. But hey, it's really ugly. And I think there will be some kind of a reckoning, or people's mental health will get to a point, or productivity will stutter. There will be something that will happen, because I can't see this as sustainable. But I don't want to get into a downer. That was more about what I would tell my younger self.
Yes. Thank you for that. And I mean, gosh, there's so many things I would tell my younger self, but most of them are about my personal life, not necessarily about work decisions. So I think if I had to pick something related to work, I think one thing that I got wrong earlier in my career, which would have been 10 years ago, was about 10 years ago, I was definitely on a good path to management and leadership. And instead of staying on that path, I chose some jobs that paid better, but kind of took me off that path. And I think if I were to tell my younger self, I think I would have said, hey, look, best to get into management and leadership now, even though it might not pay what you're looking for and these other jobs pay more, but just get into it now because it'll pay off later. So I think I got into things that were management and leadership too late. But I know that doesn't help the person who's asking, but that's honest.
Yeah, you know what? Just a quick counterpoint to that. 24 years ago, I was a chief technical officer at a .com startup that ended up with like 60 people, IPO, the whole AIM listed, big deal, sitting on a board with big boys. I hated it and quit, and I thought that was success. I think, again, to the kind of the counterpoint, I couldn't get away from leadership fast enough. Like I got to the top, 30 years old, single, 6-figure salary, loads of money, Bell-sized park, flat, all the good shit. And I kind of hated it, really. It's like you climb to the top of the mountain and go, well, this isn't, like, it's a bit of an anticlimax. This isn't what I thought it was going to be. So the bottom line is there isn't a right or wrong, and that Debbie and I might be older or further down that journey, but those are our journeys. Life is a journey, not a destination, and that is for real. It really is. So we're all learning. Everybody's learning. Anyone who says they aren't or pretends they aren't are just full of shit. It's all front. Everybody's learning all the time.
Yeah, and we don't have a time machine, and everybody's experience is so individual. It's like I can tell you what I would go back and tell my younger self, but I don't know if that's going to help you. What would I go back and tell my younger self? Don't date that guy. He's a loser. Get away from him. Stop waiting for him to be better. If that advice helps somebody, great. But I think most of the people in that situation are still making excuses for that guy, just like I did. So, I think everybody's experiences are too... I've never felt inspired by something when someone said, oh, I wish I could tell my younger self this. It didn't do anything for me. So Ana Lucia says, for me, it would be working my confidence a lot earlier than I did. I felt like I was
Yes.
kind of lost in my path, and I wasn't. I doubted myself so much that now I'm running to compensate for my lost time.
Yeah, that's a good one, Anna. I would say the same thing to myself. I didn't develop much confidence to do what I wanted until a lot later in life, for probably good reasons, but whatever. Do what you want or need to do. Don't acquiesce to everybody else's needs as much. I'm not saying you do, but I know I did. I was much more of a people pleaser, and I'm much happier now that I'm less of a people pleaser and trying to get my own needs sated, because everybody else is on the same journey to get their own needs met or whatever, right? So don't be the supporting act. You're part of the main act. I lived too much of my life as a supporting act, and I regret it.
I dig it. I dig it for sure. Okay, we've got another short question. How can you make sure to be balancing covering all edge cases in a concept and not making the screen too full or complicated?
Wow. Okay. Listen, I'm a big fan of simple and abstraction and getting back to basics, right? If you've got a bunch of edge cases and you're trying to design them into the screen, then I think you need to iterate a few more times. You need to test it more, find out, does all that stuff need to be there? Can't you hide some of it away? Does it have to be on other screens? Can it be, a level deeper, or just delete it? You know what I'm saying? What is the need and the journey and all of that stuff? It feels to me like, again, that question sounds a bit like a fruit salad at the moment. I think you probably need a little bit of a trimming of cases, I think, maybe in your language. Or I guess, I don't know, if you could give me some examples, it would be great. But again, designing to edge cases, really? I don't know, Devs, help me out here. I don't know, that doesn't sound good at all.
Okay, I will help you out here. And first of all, I just want to thank whoever went into deltacx.shop and just bought a shirt from our online shop. And they bought the t-shirt of "You Don't Need Another Fucking Workshop."
Yay!
So, yes, thank you for buying that. I get $3. So I think that when we are aware of edge cases, we should do what we can to include them. We're never going to be aware of all of the edge cases. And sometimes you also have to, goes back to priorities. How far out on the edge are they? Like I once had someone joke with me like, "Oh, hey, UX designer, what should happen if the phone explodes in their hand while they're using it?" And they were kidding. But, obviously there's endless edge cases, some more edgier than others. And so I think we just have to prioritize, like, which of these can we reasonably cover and which of these are we not going to cover now, maybe later, or we're just not going to cover at all. And again, I always want to try to include as many people as possible. So just make sure that people aren't calling accessibility an edge case when 26% of people identify as having disabilities, diagnoses, conditions. So let's make sure that accessibility isn't an edge case. Nick, you have something to add in the middle of my sentence?
No, my mic is flashing. Sorry, carry on.
It is. It's really neat. I feel like we're in 1980 Flash Gordon, with bad green screening, with Brian Blessed, my brave Hawkmen.
Send that. What is it? Bring back. It doesn't matter. Go on.
Oh,
Give
yes.
me a queen
Bring back Gordon's body.
Exactly.
Remember, just because you're including edge cases doesn't mean the screen has to get more complicated. That's where I would say look back at the task. What are people trying to do? Some people are trying to do things this way. Some people are trying to do things a different way. We called them an edge case. What is the right design to make sure that people can do this task well? It doesn't mean you have to give everybody every possible way to do every possible thing. Larry talks about that in the Disruptive Research book. And we also, my example of that is always look at Apple stuff. Apple stuff doesn't give you every possible way to configure and do every possible thing. That's a little bit more in Android's world, where some people like me prefer all of those extra switches and controls. And so remember, just because you're trying to include more people doesn't mean you have to make things more complicated. You just have to understand how they can do their task better, more efficiently, fewer errors, less cognitive load, and design for that. It doesn't mean giving everybody every possible button and switch. Someone named Me Too Pesos from the couch is saying, if it's an important enough edge case, you can add a feature toggle in settings. Maybe. I don't know what we're designing, so I would just have to say,
maybe we can do better than that. Yes. Right. Two things to that. Some language that no one appears to use anymore. Design compromise. Because design is huge, and I'm not the world's greatest designer or even to call myself a designer, but I think it's a very safe thing to say that design is a series of compromises, right? And you learn how to make better compromises or to manage that balance. You can't keep everybody happy all the time, or at least that's what you try to do, and that requires some design compromises. Number two, one of my specialist subjects is skins, user interface skins. Skins are potentially a solution to this kind of a problem where you don't want everybody to have everything. Typical case in point for stuff that I was doing with medical devices, somebody of a nurse practitioner level only gets access to certain menu items, and a consultant surgeon type person gets access to higher level functions because they need those, right? But not surgeon and nurse don't see the same stuff on one screen because one size doesn't fit all, right? So you skin it, you have a nurse's skin, you have a surgeon's skin. Or maybe a surgeon's skin has really big buttons because the surgeon's wearing gloves most of the time. This kind of stuff. Do you see what I'm saying? So get onto needs, work out who's using it, and the rest follows from there.
Yeah.
Or tasks, as Debbie put it.
And I always pronounce people's names wrong. I apologize. But Mian says, less cognitive load? Absolutely. Yeah. So, again, we are problem solvers. And so, not everything is solved by adding more to a screen. I think that's where I would want to wrap that one up. We only have one more question, and when it came in, I said, I don't understand this question at all. Good luck to me and Dr. Nick. I'm going to put it up on the screen anyway. If you happen to have asked this question, please type something in the chat or send something through deltacx.com/links, because I couldn't make sense of this one. In fact, let's make it a group therapy moment. Everybody together. What does this question mean? Is it bad UX to ask user to click a checkbox, this value doesn't follow default value, for them to be able to edit the value?
Hang on, let me just process. There's so many levels of wrong to this. I can't even tell you. It's breaking me up.
Second beer. Yeah. Ana Lucia says, sorry, but what? Okay, so here's what I think it is. And again, I apologize to the person who asked that. We're all confused and we're guessing at your question. This is the downside to this whole universe. I think what this person is saying is that they have some sort of field with a value in it. This is a default value, and in general, they don't want people editing this value, but sometimes some people who I guess know what the hell they're doing will have to edit the value, and should they have to check a checkbox to get permission to make the field editable? That's my guess.
Yeah.
Oh, Drew says it sounds like values that are auto-calculated. Could be that too.
Yeah, I think what the question asker is saying is what happens when I have an exception? Right, and there are exceptions, and what you're saying with the checkbox, I think, is okay to have an exception checkbox that says this value, it's out of range, but I know it's out of range, and I want it to be out of range for reasons. I think that's what it's about, and in theory, yeah, that sounds okay to me, but I would use better language than that.
Yeah, we need a content strategist
maybe
on this one, please. I think it depends on a few things. I think Nick brings up a really interesting point, which is, are we changing the value to something that is out of range or possibly won't validate well or unacceptable or an error, and you're going to override that?
Yeah.
Or is it just that you in general don't want people to edit what's in this box, but you know you have the edge case or the end of the bell curve where some people will want to edit what's in this box, and that again is an override where you're trying to say override this value being not editable. I know what I'm doing.
Yes.
Let me edit this value. So this is an override. I think the problem with this is that whoever you're trying to save from themselves, let's say the 90% of people who shouldn't be touching this box, if you give them any way to override it, everyone can override it. At that point, what's the point of the box? Everyone can override it. Everyone's just going to click the box and do it. Like the software where I broadcast from is called vMix, hashtag not sponsored. I love vMix. And one of the things that vMix does is when I open up settings, there's a little box and it says like, do you want to see advanced settings? And if I check that, a little message comes up saying like, warning, most people don't need to mess with advanced settings unless they have a support ticket that recommends that they mess with advanced settings. You know, are you sure you want to go ahead? Yes, no. Obviously they are really trying to save the lower savvy person from themselves, and they've put in all of these layers of are you sure, are you sure, are you sure, in order to keep you from messing with settings that could possibly even make the system inoperable. So I think, again, you have to go back to the task. What is going on in this task that we didn't want that user to edit that value? We're showing them the value, but we don't want them to change the value. And then who do we think should be able to change the value? Is this a user permissions thing where people with certain permissions can change this value? Because once you create the checkbox that says, I want to override this value, every savvy or not savvy person's going to click the checkbox and override the value. We got a couple of comments. Melanie says this could be handled better by permission levels. Yes, that was just what I was saying as well. Depending upon what this is, maybe you only want certain people to be able to edit those. And in that case, don't give them a checkbox. Just make it an editable field for people with certain permissions and a not editable field for others. Ana Lucia says, why? It feels like we're missing a lot of context and maybe there's a better solution than this. That's right. We are definitely guessing right now in the dark and stumbling because we can't see this design. We don't know who the users are. We don't know what the task is. We are super guessing. But it sounds like we're trying to keep some people from making an obvious mistake while letting other people with more knowledge or savvy control or edit something. But again, I think there's better ways to design that than the override checkbox that everybody will click.
Listen, if this was if that dialogue appeared on a modal on a, I don't know, nuclear power station control panel, it wouldn't be very good. It would be bad because like that default value could be the difference between big boom and not big boom, right? Between good and bad. Whereas if it's just, you know, doesn't follow the default value and therefore your game is not going to compile well, okay, not as big a deal, right? So context is kind of a big thing as well.
Let's read what Mian wrote. And it says, asking users to click a checkbox to unlock the ability to edit a default value can be a cumbersome extra step. It's generally best practice in UX design to streamline interactions and minimize the need for user input to achieve their goal. A more user-friendly approach could be to allow direct editing of the value with a clear option to revert to the default if necessary. I think that's another possibility as well. Let people edit and let them undo or reset to default. Again, without the context, it's hard to say what's the perfect design or outcome here, but I think Mian has a perfectly plausible idea there. Drew says a question to ask is what happens if the default value changes? That's right. Like Nick said, have we just initiated global thermonuclear war, or
Exactly.
you know, or did we accidentally order 2 coffees? You know, like
Yeah.
I don't know how mission critical
Yeah.
this box and this value are. So great comments today from our live viewers, all of you, Drew, Melanie, Ana Lucia, Mian, and Pesos.
One of the things you guys notice, it doesn't matter where you are in the world, you know, you have the self-service checkouts that we all hate and are a big hive of UX talks, I guess, right?
I like them.
when you try to buy, I guess, something that requires an item, I don't know, you put the item in the bagging area wrong, or you're trying to buy alcohol and it needs an ID check, somebody will come over and flash their little magnetic thing or type in a code and override it, right? It's exactly the same situation, frankly, here, right? You want to do something exceptional, you want to override it. In some cases, you can just tell them that's a really bad idea, or do you understand the risks of what you're about to do? And other ones, you say, no, I need you to give. I'm going to challenge you. Give me the admin code, or you must be of admin privs, as Melanie was saying. There are challenges. You know what I mean? Like, do you have the key to open this door to use it this one time? Do you see what I mean? Are you allowed to let that miner buy that alcohol at the checkout, kind of thing? Or, you know what I mean? That's what this is. That's what it really boils down to, and context. That's why I was talking about stuff, and so was Deb, because the context is going to determine everything, the severity, the risk, all of that stuff. All hail the default value.
Yeah, exactly. Default maybe the default value sucks and we all should be changing it. So it's too hard to know.
That's a great t-shirt for the shop. Default value.
I'm full of default value. UX has default value. Yes, Ana Lucia says, imagine ordering -1 hamburgers. Yes, obviously, I used to have to build that into my Acture prototypes. I used to have to make sure that if people were decrementing a number one at a time, that they couldn't go below 1 or 0 or whatever it was. -1 hamburgers. That makes me sad. Drew also said, I like self-checkout when they're designed well, but they're getting worse. The biggest problem I have with self-checkout right now is, at least where I live, you can't leave the self-checkout area without scanning a barcode on your receipt at the gates. The gates won't open for you. And I keep forgetting to do that. And I keep crashing into the gates with my body. And then all the staff look at me like, don't you know you're supposed to, do this? And I'm just thinking, how was I supposed to know that? The first time, there was no way for me to know that. I figured I walk up to the gates, they open. So yeah, lots of CX and UX adventures built into that. We do have a few more minutes left to our show, but we're out of questions. So if anybody has a question in the who's watching live, feel free to ask. We'll be happy to answer your question. And then I'm rolling right into bed. I've got my electric blanket on. Nick, how's the temperature there?
It's actually 23 degrees and warm, but it's outside. It's bloody freezing. It's actually cold again. I've got the oil radiator on next to me, and I'm just and it's been really, really, really wet here. So yeah, my little shed here nearly floated away in the midweek. But it's all good. It's all good. And AI. Can I have a quick rant about AI? Because
yeah, sure,
I've been doing AI transcript analysis for about a year now, with varying levels of success. At the moment, the weather in AI land today has been horrific, right? It's been grinding my gears, and it's almost like everything I'm learning on and the next day can be completely undone and doesn't mean anything. And if you spend a year trying to work this shit out and it just keeps resetting or changing, that's kind of frustrating. So yeah, I'm basically trying to make sense of something that does not make sense, and that's I think my stupidity. I think that's what the dawning that I'm coming to is I'm trying to reason with something that doesn't reason, that it just isn't built that way. You know?
I am not doing
GPT
a lot
is
of
developing
AI.
attitude.
I saw the thing that you posted on LinkedIn about how the more you're in a conversation with some of the large language models, the lower quality it becomes. Mian has a question. Let's do it. Do you mean integrate Miro in the live show? Is that your question? That's a funny question. Do you mean that we should integrate Miro in the live show so you can put up animated GIFs while we're... AI needs UX TLC. Thank you to the person with all the letters, or as we used to say in New York, letters. You got the letters.
Yeah, AI UX will become a massive thing, but not for kind of 10 years, I don't think, or maybe sooner. But at the moment, it's an engineering play. It just is. But pretty soon, the UX of AI is basically psychology. Surprise.
Yeah, this question says, so he was really asking, oh, I've got too many things on the screen. Now I've done it. I've got to undo this. I forgot. Yeah, so can we integrate Miro during this show? He wants to put up GIFs while we're talking. I would have to say no thank you, only because I have no idea what you're going to put up. And I don't want to get thrown off YouTube. Holy cats.
Yep.
And because that's out of control. And please no. Oh, I can see where I've pressed the wrong button. Okay, that makes sense. Wow. Okay, I'm pressing all the wrong buttons today. I'm having fun. I'm trying new things. So, no. We have done some shows with live Miro boards because we were learning a technique or doing an exercise. A couple of years ago, especially during the pandemic, we used to do live improv shows, comedy improv. I don't think, Nick, you ever came to those, or maybe one once, but we did live improv comedy shows. We did a bunch of them where we would take some of the popular workshop techniques and we would just take the piss and we would do like, okay, we're going to do a lean UX canvas and just make it up and put up wrong answers only kind of thing. And so, we did a couple of those and people said they loved them and they helped them blow off steam by getting to do something silly and ridiculous and irreverent. So I would have to say maybe someday again for the comedy. I think in 2024 people could use a little bit more comedy and levity and silliness in their lives in general, and definitely around work. So no, we're not going to let you post GIFs while we're talking. I think you can, if you're in YouTube, I think you can post emojis. YouTubers put up some emojis. I think the emojis are supposed to flash over the screen while we talk. So you can set off just standard emojis. So sometimes we get poop and toilets and, stuff that people want to put up to say what they think of something. I'm trying to look for where's my module for where I can reload the emojis and see if we missed some. Stream elements. There it is. Let's try refreshing that. See if we got any before that I missed. Okay, we got a tonguey face. Yeah. We got a tonguey face earlier. That was from Ana Lucio, and she said what time zone she lived in. So yeah, if you do that could be your contribution. If you're on YouTube, you can put up standard emojis.
Is that a new thing?
No, it's been there for years.
Mm.
Yeah, and if you subscribe, we get that emoji explosion. It's part of that system. Yeah, it's Stream Elements. Not sponsored. I mean, it's free. I don't pay for it, but yeah, streamelements.com. It's pretty neat. And tomorrow, don't forget, tomorrow we've got a webinar, same time, 11 p.m. Italy time. We're going to be meeting some UX researchers to talk about what it's like to be UX researchers. I'm doing these little what is my job webinars so that people, especially people who don't understand what we do, can learn a little bit more about what the heck we do. Solomon's here. Should designers be responsible for... How late am I? You're pretty late. You're the last question. That's it. No more questions. It's just Solomon. Nick, should designers be responsible for defining product success metrics?
If you're in a startup and there's no product manager and it's just your bosses and you, that kind of thing, then maybe. I would say no. I would say that's the product manager's role, generally speaking. Designers should design. I mean, that's my humble opinion. Designers are probably screaming at me, how dare you? We're all product success metrics definers. But I don't see it, man. I just don't see it. So no, simple answer.
I would say collaboration. I would say that sometimes when we leave it to the product managers, they are not always focused on things that we would agree with. And so I would say while at many companies, the product manager ultimately makes that decision, I would like to see next time then. Yes. Well, no, we're answering it now, but just a reminder, you are late. because you asked. So yeah, so I would say I would still like to see designers collaborate on those metrics, especially if they can get product managers focused on more customer-centric metrics. Like a product manager might be focused on conversion rate and revenue and repeat purchase or stuff like that. And maybe a designer, or of course a researcher, but a designer could remind them, hey, what about time on task? We'd like to see this task take less time. What about number of errors per task or on a page? We want to make sure that as we are designing or improving things, people are making no mistakes, fewer mistakes. So I would say that while product managers often get to have the final word on this, which I don't love, especially if you're supposedly in a trio, if they're supposedly an empowered trio, then yes, I want UX people collaborating and contributing to these decisions. Hashtag trio. All right. I think we will wrap up. Nick is in snacky mode.
I am, sorry.
What are you eating? No, looks good. I'm on a diet. What are you eating?
But this is actually a protein bar. It's got low sugar. It's got very little sugar in it.
Very good choice, sir.
But it tastes really naughty. It feels like I'm having something that's really filthy and full of sugar and bad stuff. And it's just protein and sweeteners, which is different forms of bad stuff. But it's fine. It won't set my bloody. I'm pre-diabetic, and so I'm not really allowed to have sugary stuff. Boo.
Boo. Well, come over here and I don't know what you'll eat because everything is breads and carbs and pastas and.
No, I'm fine with that. It's just
okay.
This
just
sort of thing, which
sugar.
is. Yeah, that's really bad. That came in something I ordered. They give this stuff away, but that is pure sugar. That is you probably can't see it's gone invisible, but yeah. Gong.
Yes, the gong is my new system. It reminds us when we are 55 minutes or 56 minutes into a show so that we can remember to end the show. That being, because otherwise I'll forget. So that being said, Nick, let's remind everybody where they can find you and follow you and interact with your glowing greatness.
Ignore that last bit. LinkedIn. I'm a bit busy these days. I really am. So I'm not. I don't interact on LinkedIn as much as I have been. That's not to say I won't in the future. I'm just under it right now, juggling multiple projects and stuff. So yeah, LinkedIn is where to find me. I've also going to be doing quite a few conferences this year. That's probably the best way if you want to get a dose of Dr. Nick is get me raw in the flesh live on stage somewhere. Knowledge transfer, getting these ideas over to you, it works great through this medium, but real amazing learning happens when we're physically together. So I want to do a lot more conferences. So that's me.
Okay, and I've applied to 0 conferences this year because I am so tired of them not even paying for me to get there and sometimes not even paying for me to get in the door. I am always, Oh, thank you, Adil. Thanks for coming on. Please remember that we do Q&A AMA every Thursday. Sometimes it is this later hour, which is 11 p.m. for me in Italy. Sometimes we do it at 3 p.m. Italy time. So way over there, you'll see cxcc.to/events. Thank you, Nick. That is our events calendar, and you can RSVP to individual events to get an email reminder, or you can add our whole calendar to your whole calendar. And then you will know when things are, especially since we've got daylight savings time coming up next month, and you know that's going to mess everybody up because here in Italy, we don't change clocks the same times as other countries, and we always get messed up in March and in the fall. I don't like daylight savings time. Make it go away. All right, so let's see. Remember, tomorrow is our live webinar about research. That's going to be in Google Meet. So you're going to want to get that Google Meet URL from cxcc.to/events. These webinars are free. We're not looking for your money. We don't put you on a mailing list. We're just trying some things that aren't YouTube. And then let's see what else. And then Friday is not anything. And then Monday is another webinar. Oh, I'm going to be doing my webinar that launched 1,000 discussions about Teresa Torres. I'll be reading the article that started all of that. I'd written an article called "Do We Want to Mitigate Risk But Not Seek Truth?" And I'm going to be reading that article on Monday's webinar, which we'll probably do live here on YouTube, just so Teresa fans can join in if they'd like, and see what they have to say about her article. I'm sorry, about her quote, because the article was about a quote I found that she said and my critical thinking about the quote. So that will be Monday's webinar. Again, free to join, and I'll have to change it from being can I? Yeah, I'll change. Let me make a note. Change Monday to live stream instead of
I
Google
love how you call it critical thinking, because whenever I do that critical thinking stuff, I get called a bastard.
Oh, please. The Teresa fans called me everything in the book and then blocked me. They told me I was unprofessional,
Really?
I was like, really? I have an opinion on an exact quote that this person said, and I'm unprofessional. They told me I was bad at research. They told me, they went all ad hominem, which of course we've got a graphic for that here on the show. It's called Find Yourself on This Pyramid. And
how can somebody who doesn't do research even judge somebody who is a professional researcher? I don't understand.
My question was actually, how can you judge how good I am at research based on an article I wrote about someone's quote? Like, this has nothing to do with my job. This has nothing to do with research. This is me finding one of Teresa's quotes and finding that it didn't stand up well to critical thinking. And I thought that we should have that conversation out loud. And so people just went really personal with stuff, and and then they went misogynist. I have a great screenshot of a guy who said I was emotional and blabbering.
Wow.
Some
you know
words,
what? I've seen Lewis Hamilton drive a Formula One car.
Women. What, Nick?
I've seen Lewis Hamilton drive a Formula One car. Does that give me the right to criticize him as a racing driver?
You can, but all of this is quite foolish.
It doesn't mean anything. I'm entitled to my opinion, but it doesn't mean jack shit.
Yeah. Yes, so certainly true. So I certainly welcome product managers, product leaders, Teresa fans to give me their thoughts, but on Teresa's quote. If we're going to discuss Teresa's quote, let's discuss Teresa's quote. Don't discuss me. I'm not the topic here. If you're discussing me, that is ad hominem, and that is designed to be a distraction. So we're not going to do that, but that's what Monday's webinar will be. So I'm going to... What?
No, okay. It isn't... okay. It isn't just Teresa Torres.
No,
I won't name names
not
here, but I will give you off camera the names of a couple of other authors who are product authors and who are lovely people. This is not a personal attack, but who are saying things which are just irresponsible or frankly wrong. So it's not just Teresa. There are a number of product folk who are doing it, and that's why the signal is so strong from product, because product managers get different triangulated signals all saying the same thing, which are all wrong. Big problem.
Why don't you join us on Monday? It's going to be, be great to have you in the audience yelling this stuff out where someone will hear it. So Monday is going to be another 11 p.m. for me, 10 p.m. for you, Dr. Nick. So hopefully we'll see you in the peanut gallery, and you can be... Oh, I think I read that was a phrase we weren't supposed to use anymore. I hope to see you in the cheap seats, and and bring your snacks. So thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining. Thanks to Nick for fun and great answers. And I will see everybody tomorrow.